Firstly, to you, Miranda, you tackle this issue quite a bit in your column. It would seem that you think that men are pretty shabbily treated?
I do. I think there's a toxic form of sort of victim feminism which holds that men are all brutes, they're all little boys, they're incipient wife bashers, and that women are helpless victims, and, you know, it's fainting couch feminism. And I think it doesn't do women any good. It's really very retrograde. It's turning back 100 years of feminism in which women are supposed to be strong and equal.
But the kind of feminism you're talking about is kind of not the mainstream of feminism, just in the same way as, you know, pro-rape groups are not the mainstream of male thinking.
Oh, yes, it is. It is the loudest form, it is the most prominent form, and you only have to look at the domestic violence, anti-domestic violence campaigns that are being run, in which every male is a perpetrator, every woman is a helpless victim.
Well, they're not saying that every male's a perpetrator.
Yes, they are. You
No,
look at
they're
the government's new ads, they show a little boy pushing down a little girl. The little girl is perfect, the little boy is a monster. You know, you're already sort of criminalising masculinity at the age of 7.
I would disagree, because I identify myself as a feminist. A lot of my friends do. I certainly don't think all men are rapists. I just believe that we should be paid equally, and I believe that we should have the same rights in the workplace and not be discriminated against. So I don't agree that all feminists think all men are rapists. And
no, I don't think all feminists do, but I think that the reigning kind of paradigm of the sort of feminism that you see in the media, that you read about, it's this creeping in, just insidious attack on males and masculinity, and that, you know, the type of masculinity that we, you know, that has protected humankind from time immemorial is now criminalised.
I see that claim coming more from columnists than from the actual feminists themselves. You know, there's this claim that men are suddenly second-class citizens, but, you know, with the gender pay gap still at 17.5% in favour of men, women in relationships still doing twice as much of the unpaid domestic tasks as men, even when both partners are breadwinners, you know, women are still 4 times more likely to experience violence by their partner than men, and more than 10 times more likely to be killed by their partner. It's a bit of a stretch to say that men are second-class citizens, isn't it?
It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, what I find particularly interesting about this is, let's be clear, when Miranda is talking about these mainstream feminists, she's talking about people like me. I'm a columnist for The Guardian. I write about feminists all the time. I'm very involved in the feminist movement, and I'm an advocate of the full equal rights of women before the law and attention to the traditions of our society, which has privileged men over women, and what that means. Absolutely do I not believe that all men are rapists or all men are dangerous, but absolute nonsense. It's a mischaracterisation of a movement that's not based on facts so much as it's based on Miranda's paranoia. Like, there is absolutely nobody who's involved in mainstream feminist activity in this country, people like me and my colleagues like Clem Ford, people like Jane Gilmore, like all of Jenna Price, all of these women who presumably Miranda is trying to attack here, have never once said any of the things that she accuses us of saying. And we have to face a reality. The overwhelming perpetrators of violence against women and other men are men. That's not to say all men do it, but there is to say that there is a definite gender cultural problem here that we as a society have to address, because women are being hurt and women are being killed.
Okay,
sorry.
I was just going to say, let's bring a man into this. Rory, what are your thoughts? Do you think that men have become second-class citizens?
Oh, look, I don't think we're second-class citizens. We still, you know, enjoy all the great rights that living in a country like Australia gives you. But there's certainly, you know, we're being painted. I think there's a certain line of commentary which won't rest until there's some sort of gender apartheid in this country where.
Oh, what,
you know,
garbage!
No, that's
what absolute garbage.
Well, you may think so, Van, but you know.
But you're talking about me. I am that commentary, and that's just patently not true.
Well, the men of Australia, the vast majority of men in Australia are good men who love their women, who treat their, you know, who love their children. They're out there on the sporting fields every weekend.
No one disagrees with that.
If you dropped into this country from outer space and started reading the media, you would think that the men of this country are vastly, they're wife-beating, porn-consuming, wife-killing, lazy.
That's not true, Rory.
And there's this vast conspiracy to pay our women less than men, which is, you know, that pay gap
There is a
thing is
gender pay
absolute
gap
crap.
of 23% of women in the media. You are actually speaking to women right now who exist in a media environment where we are paid 23% less than you.
That is
Well,
just...
can I just pick up
That's-
Rory there?
it's
How
a
do we say that the
statistical
pay
truth.
gap issue is crap? I mean, they're the government's own statistics on that, Rory.
Yeah,
Women
but
work fewer
the
hours.
pay gap is portrayed
know the
as
statistics,
women
Andrew.
being
Oh,
paid
right.
less.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, let's get back to that in a minute,
Women
Mark.
work fewer hours. Women work fewer hours, something you'll never admit to in presenting that stat.
Exactly.
That is,
If you
I don't-
think-
By choice, by choice, by choice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This is not
understandably
true.
So, but that's even accounting for working in the same professions at the same hours, is it not, Van?
yes, it is true. In fact, the gender pay gap in this country kicks in when people enter the workforce when they're 15. There is an 11% pay gap between female workers and male workers in the 15 to 19 age range. It begins as soon as we start working, which is why, you know, the usual nonsense that the right go on with about, oh, you know, well, women go off to have children and it's all because they take time out to have kids is not true. It is statistically been proven not to be true. These are statistics from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. It is a matter of government recognition. We have just done a survey within the media community that the Media Entertainment and Arts Alliance found that the gender pay gap in the media is 23%. We represent a gender pay gap all the time. It is true. You can
Okay.
make
gap
up
for
nonsense, but
university
it stays a
graduates is
fact.
2%. The gap for university graduates is 2%. And
But you're talking about university graduates there.
well, they're the people coming into the workforce in large numbers. And
plenty of
Van, if
people
you
who are
think
not
that's the
university
biggest
graduates.
inequality issue in society, you need to get out of inner Melbourne and visit places like Claymore and Ayres in southwest Sydney, public housing estates where the inequality gap between them and places like Vaucluse and Kirribilli and the lower North Shore is not 2%, it's 200%.
Mark, you've known me for
200%. You're
20
spending
years
your
and
life
you-
absorbed in the
You know
2%
that I'm
issue.
from
which
those
is an
suburbs
issue.
of Sydney,
When if you were
Mark.
truly interested in social justice, you'd be addressing the 200%
Why can't
issue,
you- why
which
can't-
is about class, which is
can't you
about
address both of
Absolutely,
those
Mark. In
things?
fact, I'd recommend that you
Because
read my
one's
Guardian
piddling.
article this
One's
week,
piddling
which is
and
about
effectively
class.
a waste of your time in the variations of a market economy.
But Mark,
2%
you and
is
your
nothing
statistics,
compared to
you're
200%.
you're narrowing it to university graduates there in order to get a statistic which is not borne out by the greater society.
Yeah, but
No,
in
he
your
is.
statistics, they're women who are choosing to work fewer hours, Andrew. You're just playing
I don't
wrong.
think
Mark,
that's
you
always the
can't
truth.
talk
we need to
about-
go back over this statistical analysis again. Do you want?
Aside from the statistics, let's look at the notion that women over the past 40 years, we are better educated, which means we have more financial freedom. We don't need a man like we may have needed a couple of decades ago. Do you think there's any truth to the argument that perhaps men feel sort of threatened because they no longer have that power or do you think there's any...
No, I think the average man's doing quite fine. They ignore most of the left feminist claptrap. They ignore people like Van, who are a very, very minority interest in our society. She's a self-declared anarchist, way, way on the extreme left of politics, representing perhaps 0.001% of thought in Australia. So she's safely ignored. The real issue for men is, can they keep up in the education system? At the moment, among university graduates leaving every year, 40% are male, 60% are female, a massive advance for women in this country. And when you look at the bottom of society, when you get away from Van's debate about women like her, because left feminism
for
is
God's
essentially
sake, Mark.
selfish. Can I speak, Andrew, without you being a participant? Are you a participant in this show or a host?
Upon
Are you a
insulting
professional
the
host
other
or a
guests,
participant?
I'm trying to get to the
according
bottom
your
of the issue,
politics.
but you try
Are
and
you the
insult
host
the
of
other
this
guests.
program, professional and
can
cool?
I
Are you the
represent
host of this
myself?
program? You should declare what you're doing at the beginning of the
can I tell you
segment.
something,
You
Mark?
should declare your interest at the beginning of the segment.
absolutely
Because I can tell you the viewers had a gutful of you having a bet each way. Pretending
bet
you're a
each
host,
way?
but really being a left-wing
I
participant
am
in the
trying to
debate.
get to the bottom of the issue. I have no doubt
No,
that
you're not.
there are
You're
some...
defending Van because I made a valid point.
Storm,
you didn't,
please.
Mark.
I
You
have
didn't
no
make a
doubt
valid
that there
point.
are some legitimate concerns that men have about certain issues. Now, you talk about, there being more graduates than women than men. Great, okay, legitimate concern. Okay, we talk about the family law system, apparently these days,
Sure.
being skewed away from men in favour of
not
women.
true. This is not
Van,
true.
please. To create inequitable results.
And also
these
the
are
fact
worth
that
these are worth exploring.
And also the
But
fact-
do you need to run down feminism in order to explore those issues?
No, you
I'm running
don't.
down Van.
Okay, well,
Yes.
why don't we try
Which
and
is
keep away
legitimate
from
point,
personal
because the
attacks?
views are so
Can I
extreme and
defend
marginal.
myself, please, or is a man going to speak over me
No,
about
you're trying
me?
to speak over us as
Yes,
ever.
you are
Come on,
speaking
have you
over
go.
me, Mark.
Here we
You're
go.
proving my point, Mark. You're not even letting me talk about myself. Now, I've known you for 20 years.
No, you haven't. We've never met.
I met you when I was an undergraduate at the University of Wollongong. Wollongong.
Well,
You know for a
past
fact
my
I'm from
memory,
a
I've gotta say.
working class family from the suburbs of Sydney, and I
No,
write
you
about that
didn't.
in
You're a
my
product of
work
the
all the
clubs
time.
industry.
You have to deal with the fact, Mark, that your position is the extremist one. I'm from the suburbs. I'm state school. I'm University of Wollongong, and I'm a feminist commentator who's
You're an
pointed out
anarchist.
Okay, with respect.
the fact that women are discriminated against in this society. Let's talk about those trains and the
Okay.
need for safe
Okay,
carriages.
Van, can
Were
you
you
just give us
sexually
a
assaulted
moment?
on a train
I
when you
mean
were a
this-
teenager? Because I was.
Excuse me, Van. I mean this with respect to all of you, but I think personal attacks not very helpful at this stage. And Rory, I'd like to hear from you because you write a column about what men need. So let's try and discuss something that's a bit more constructive. What is it? Do you think that men need to feel like things are a bit fairer?
Yeah, well, my brief for that column was to give women an insight into how men think, and increasingly over the last couple of years, I've been finding myself having to defend men in Australia, and in doing that, by defending men, I get personally attacked and accused of being a misogynist because I defend men, and I think instead of banning men from carriages or having women-only car spaces or any of that sort of separatist, I think that sends the wrong message. I think we should be glorifying fatherhood. We should be lauding fathers, facilitating them to take time off work to be with their kids. I've got 3 sons, and I've met a lot of boys over the years, and the only boys I've never liked are the ones who had crap fathers, to be honest. And I think we should celebrate fatherhood the same way we celebrate, increasingly and quite rightly, we celebrate women's achievements and their advances. But somewhere along the line, instead of demonising men, you need men to be allies in this fight towards equality. There's no point alienating
Who is
men because
demonising
without
men? Who
us,
is doing
you're
that?
not going.
That is the big question, though. I mean, we would all agree, I think, with Rory, that the crucial role of men in any society needs to be celebrated, right? But that doesn't mean that we demonise men by simply pointing out that there are issues where women lag behind, or indeed where some men don't act according to their own best standards.
Look, but I don't think that is what people are railing against. I mean, I'm the mother of 2 boys, and I see the way society is changing to a position where being a man is somehow you have to apologise for. That masculinity, the traits that we have associated with masculinity that are crucial for the protection of our society, and also that women want in men, are being sort of criminalised and marginalised and demonised. And I just come back again to these domestic violence campaigns in which the true statistics are not recognised. We're not treated all as human beings, each one of us frail with flaws, but we are divided up into good women and bad men. I think that is sad both for women and for men.
Regarding the pink carriages, why is it so offensive? I mean, because I don't think that all men on a train are trying to rape me, but if I'm catching a train late at night and I'm by myself and there's a carriage where it's women only, if that's a personal safety issue, and I don't think 99% of the people on the train would want to rape me, but if that's a personal safety, why push back so much at that? Why is that demonising all men?
Listen, if we have a problem with trains where women are so frightened that they don't want to be around men, men can also be protectors, but if we have that sort of a problem, then what the problem we have is not a feminism problem or a man problem, it's a policing problem. Our train carriages should be safe. So you're going to put all the bad guys into a carriage with men and have no protection there? I mean, we're all victims. We're all perpetrators, you're not just good because you're a woman and bad because you're a man.
Totally
it's just
agree.
that most
and
perpetrators are
very
men.
few people ever say that. But, to say that it's demonising men to have a women-only carriage is to say that it's demonising all of society to have a police force.
Andrew, you probably caught the train about 20 years ago. The practicality on the 11:30
Mark,
train
good on you with
out
your
of
personal
Sydney.
attacks. Good on you, mate. Good to see you sticking to the topic again.
Well, I am sticking to the topic. It just shows how little you know about the practicalities of life in the suburbs, because the idea that
I
you're
don't
on
live
an
in a
11...
suburb. I live in a cloud, Mark.
No, you live in cloud cuckoo land, absolutely. So look, the point is that if you're on the 11:30 train out of the city and there's a women's only carriage and you're a bad bloke who wants to do damage, well, you go straight in. You're not going to respect the pink
Oh,
colour.
yeah, that's a really insightful comment, Mark. Good on you.
Thank you for giving us
It's
your
a pure
insight to how the
trading
good on you,
data.
mate.
Get out of your limo, pal.
It's so nice to have a constructive debate. Thanks, Mark. Well, listen, Miranda, thank you. And thank you, Van.
Miranda.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rory,
Mark.
for your insights. And thank you, Mark, for your entertainment.
Colour pink's going to protect you. Well, thanks for your objectivity, Andrew. And maybe next week you can go back to being a proper professional host instead of participant. If you want to participate, declare that at the start of the segment, and you might get a lot more respect from the viewers, I
and
can
once
assure
again,
you.
I'm finding myself
'Cause
doing
they're bagging you
timeout on
uphill and
these
down
ones.
Dale.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on.